Time to take a break from Chaos Dwarfs and talk about the free LC, the savior of Kislev. Yes, indeed, Ulrika Magdova is my new favorite character in the game officially. She is absolutely awesome and represents a very nice addition for Kislev especially. She's also available for the Empire, but let's go ahead and take a look. She's on horseback now, of course can also go on foot. She is a hybrid melee caster and bow character, so kind of an all-in-one here. She's got anti-infantry plus 30 with her dual hand weapons. She's got a nice kind of rapier here and this awesome dagger. Fantastic foot animations. You're not unfortunately going to see them in this battle, but definitely you're probably going to see them quite a bit today in some other videos or on streams. I may even stream showcasing Ulrika because she's that awesome. Anyway, she is an undead, which I know. I'm not a fan of undeads typically, but of course she's on the good side. She's got hunger, you can choose to take. She's also got a number of other abilities here, including Blood Shard, which will give her some spell mastery as she gets kills. She's got Lore of Shadows, which is a really nice addition for Kislev. They are somewhat lacking in the magic department. Their sort of bespoke lores are somewhat underwhelming in my opinion, so it's very nice for her to get this. She's also got this Strider here, of course, on horseback. This here, Dancing Blade, one of her items, gives her physical resistance and melee defense, and also debuffs melee attack in an AoE. Generally very useful. This here as well, as long as she's above 75% hit points, she gets a little bit of extra missile damage, and that's, I guess, where the Strider's coming from. A little bit of extra speed as well. Missile damage is pretty solid. It's not amazing, but it's sort of in between like a Glade Lord and a Glade Captain, which is pretty much spot on what I would expect. Yeah, for the rest of the build here, up against BattleZ's Bretonnia, I've got Boris and a Patriarch for a nice triple character squad. Very expensive, left me pretty thin on the rest of the army, as I've also taken the Oath Brothers of Tor, so quite a tall build here in many aspects, but lots of Kossar Spears. Got 5 of them, 2 Armored Kossars already getting shelled by a Trebuchet there. Got some Dervishes scattered around, also Lewin for BattleZ up in the air, under the red and gold banner of Rapans, but of course it's Lewin here. We've also got some Hippogriff Knights, some Grail Knights here in the back, and some Mounted Yeomen, 2 Field Trebuchets with some Chevrons. Gives significant accuracy and obviously refire rate. I've got front line of Men-at-Arms with shields, nice for that missile block chance, and plenty of Peasant Archers, so I was actually quite scared of like a mass Peasant Archer build with what I had brought, because I am relatively tall and thin. It's a little bit risky here, but we're going to get in close with Ulrika and try and use her spells and whatnot to good effect. So far, she's got no spell mastery, so that Milkos Mystifying Miasma cast on the Grail Knights won't have any additional effect, but does get a little bit of damage in there, draws out a nice Earthblood. BattleZ to try and counteract that damage, but I'm just going to attack up on this flank with my mobility and try and just kind of occupy his main forces with, you know, the Kossar Spears and whatnot, but this is definitely where the big important engagement is going to be. So initially I'm a little bit late with the Oath Brothers. Boris and the Patriarch kind of get jumped up against this rock by the Grail Knights and the Hippogriff Knights here as well. Of course, he's going to drop that Shard Blade, get a really nice damage effect in that AoE, also sends him into an enrage. Got that Stand Your Ground. Ulrika's just kind of hanging around, picking away with her bow for the time being. Meanwhile, Kosovoid Dervishes straight YOLO charging into the back line, even with defenses nearby. With By Our Blood, I'm fully confident they'll be able to finish off these Trebuchets, and that in and of itself is cost effective. We can always get some archer kills after that as well, if possible. But anyway, let's check back in with Ulrika. She is going to now move into melee. You can see she's got her rapier out. It's going to be a little bit hard to see her in this mass of gigantic knights and hippogriffs and whatnot, but rest assured she's in there with their double blades fighting her best. And again, definitely recommend taking a look at her foot animations. You can even see from her banner there that she's got like the dagger and rapier combination, which is super awesome. I'm sure modders will put that animation set to very good use. But here, once the Oath Brothers arrive, we're able to kind of turn things around a little bit. Unfortunately, though, Boris does get terrified through his By Our Blood. BattleZ very smartly is going to try and chase off, but once the terror and By Our Blood wears off, Boris immediately comes back from route due to the way the terror mechanics work, there's kind of this internal timer, right? And once that runs out, as long as the unit has above 0 leadership, they will come back from route. I believe that's how it works. Anyway, Boris comes back, forces the damsel to run for her life, and is going to get back to this character squad. Ulrika's taking a little bit of a beating from Lewin. I mean, she's a decent combatant, but certainly not on the tier of Lewin on his hippogriff, so she's going to scoot away. Oh, she just absolutely escaped my entire view there. Where is she? There she is, running far, far away. She's got pretty long range, so I can get at a pretty good distance and still pick away with the bow. Get some really nice value there. That little AoE debuff is a very small AoE. It's pretty much units within melee range of her, more or less, but also will be useful. Has been useful already, helping to make this bear blob a little bit more tanky. The Hippogriffs are definitely trying their best, and Bretonnia got some pretty significant buffs as well, it should be said. The Grail Knights got buffs, I believe, to Mass. Grail Guardians. Hippogriff Knights, I believe, also got some buffs to Mass, I want to say. Could be wrong about that. I'd have to double-check the numbers, but very fun stuff. Also going to throw a little bit of Melkos on this Yeoman here, just to keep them from being able to support this fight too effectively. And Ulrika getting in there, finishing off a few of these Hippogriff Knights herself. Man, she is very tiny in comparison. There we go, a little slash right there, takes one down. She's been doing a great job fighting and shooting and everything else. Lewin also gets routed. He's pretty close to his healing cap, but of course, once he does rout, that Ladies Champion effect stops, so he stops getting his own self-healing. We'll be relying on that Lore of Life caster to top him off. Thankfully, she is still alive here somewhere. Yep. Looking like she's here being protected by the spears. Most of the important large targets gone. I'm just going to use the Bear Cav blob to chase down some peasant archers. Meanwhile, Ulrika's, again, keeping at a distance, getting some shots in on Lewin, and potentially trying to bait him onto the ground. She's definitely going to be very useful as kind of a bait tool here to see if I can get BattleZ to commit to a ground engagement with the other units close enough nearby, and maybe with a little enfeebling foe. If I need to stand and fight with her for just a moment, I can, of course. She's also going to be quite useful in chasing down this damsel. Well, getting close, she rides alongside the damsel here. A little bit of janky frame action there, but she's also shooting Lewin as she's chasing the damsel. Not actually attacking the damsel at all, which is kind of hilarious, but at least applying pressure, certainly. Lewin is finally going to drop down here, and again, got to get out of dodge real quick, try and get back to support. A little bit of enfeebling foe, as I said, and BattleZ very wisely going to pop back up into the air. That does leave the damsel somewhat exposed. Will she get caught? Nope, looks like Boris didn't actually have an attack order there, so he also manages to squeak away once again. If we take a look again at the wide view of the battle, our front lines have more or less traded. I've thankfully been able to retain especially this one unit of armored Kossars relatively healthy, but the rest of my Kossar spears kind of, again, just kind of traded into his men-at-arms and whatnot. So I've been keeping it on the high-value pool units because that's what we're here to see, more or less. But just understand that there was also a battle that took place that really was fairly inconclusive. So it ends up coming down to this these characters anyway, right? Those high-value units. Ulrika continuing to chase as the Oath Brothers move in. They're going to drop their bombardments. Final Shard Blade being used as well for Boris here to get a nice blob attack on these Spearmen-at-Arms here. Try and do as much damage to those two units as possible. See, I also dropped that Dancing Blade in there, so yeah, it looks like the effect already dropped off those spears, but momentarily it was active. Another enfeebling foe on Lewin also, just to keep his stats down. Only 11 melee defense, 28 attack with that active. So, love Lore of Shadows. It's long been one of the best lores. Has a good combination of damage spells, debuffs. Enfeebling foe for character duels or high-value fights has always been probably one of the best debuffs in the game, just considering how cheap it is and how big of an impact it can have. Of course, Pit of Shades got nerfed, as many of you may have heard. It's still going to be quite useful, especially in Domination, more static game like that, or in Sieges. But here on an open field battle, of course, Penumbral Pendulum also still quite decent. I'm a big fan of Melkos as well, especially in a matchup like this where you might expect to face some elite cavalry. Like anything that's a good target for Fate of Yuna, also a good target for that Melkos, as it is technically more mana efficient actually in terms of its damage than Fate of Yuna. Now with the Spell Mastery charged up, if there was still a Grail Knight alive late game, we could get some pretty serious damage. If we go ahead and take a look as this fight plays out here, she is up to, just kidding, only 3%. She actually hasn't got that many straight up kills. Only 27 kills, but a lot of damage value as she has been fighting high value targets. She now moves in with Patriarch. There's Boris, all working together. Finish off King Lewin here. There it is, with a beautiful photo finish cast, dagger in the air, face covered in blood. She's a vampire. She probably likes that kind of thing, right? Anyway, very cool. Very good addition to Kislev. Definitely looking forward to using her more in the future. Feels quite strong. I mean, she is still somewhat of a squishy caster, but can put up a very decent fight, especially against like an infantry character. I did some testing a little bit, and she absolutely beat the brakes off of somebody like Marcus Wolfhart, which I found pretty interesting. So I would put her kind of at a mid-tier combatant level. She's not an absolute powerhouse, but she can definitely put a beating on most low-tier characters and casters. Definitely be on the lookout for her. Of course, like I said, Lord of Shadows, the fact she has a bow, she can get value in a lot of different ways. And here she gets straight damage value, 2200, basically equaling Boris more or less. Very impressive performance. Tor Brothers got even more though, and definitely were the main carry here. Patriarch also gets some pretty good value himself, and also carries the healing, which is super important. Then the one armored Kossar alive late game helps support. The rest of the build kind of just trades. I mean, Kossified dervishes rather, that get into the trebuchets both pay for themselves, which is nice. Neither of the trebuchets end up paying for themselves, but tactically kind of drawing me into that engagement was probably useful enough in and of itself. The Grail Knights and the Royal Pegasus Knights both do a pretty decent job of getting some value back. Lewin also gets some nice value overall. The rest of the army, I think honestly the Peasant Archers, some of them got some really nice value, but quite a few of them I was able to shut down with those dervishes after they finished off the trebuchets and, you know, running them down with like the armored Kossars and whatnot. So arguably that's maybe where he lost it. I'm not really sure exactly. It was a pretty close battle at the end of the day, and to be honest, had he been able to fully chase Boris off the side of the map there, I definitely would have lost. That's just how it goes sometimes. But cool performance by Ulrika. Definitely looking forward, as I said, to using her more in the future, playing with builds with her, and just seeing kind of how she affects the meta for Kislev. It's definitely a plus, no question about that. How much of a plus remains to be seen. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Hopefully you enjoy. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.